Good morning. This is Tim Harris with the Harris Real Estate University. I suppose I should say good afternoon for those of you on the East Coast as well. Well, this is Friday, and of course, like every Friday here at Harris Real Estate University, we provide our free Superstar interview. Now, for those of you who are new to Harris Real Estate University or new to the Superstar interview series, here's what you need to be ready for. First of all, these are not fluff interviews. These are calls that we get really in depth about what it takes to really be a superstar in today's market. Now, for long-time listeners, you guys know that sometimes we interview top-producing realtors. Sometimes we've interviewed just about everybody. Top-producing realtors. We've interviewed famous economists, authors. We've interviewed anyone and everyone who I think will have a good influence on you and your real estate business. That's who we focus on for the sake of selecting folks to be on our Superstar interview series. And today's guest is no different. So, Julie, is that you breathing or is that Lynn breathing?
Not me, I'm muted.
Lynn, is that you?
I haven't been engaging in heavy breathing lately.
Okay.
But we're glad that you are breathing.
Yes, that's true. All right, so without any further delay, so whoever it was, I think, just corrected themselves. We have two people that generally monitor these calls for us in case there's any technical issues that are in Florida and Ohio. So I want to welcome to the Superstar interview series and welcome Lenn Harley. So welcome, Lynn, and thank you for being today's Harris Real Estate University Superstar.
Hi, and welcome everyone.
So, guys, in case you don't know it, prior to every call, I do what's called a pre-call. And on the pre-call, what I do is I basically spend a lot of time and go through and get to know the guest and ask them questions and then write the questions out that I think will be most valuable for our listeners. So I had a great deal of fun with our pre-call with Lynn because I learned so much, and I think you're going to as well. So I've written out a whole bunch of questions for Lynn, and Lynn, you have those questions, right?
Yes, I do.
But that does not prevent you guys, the attendees, from adding in your own questions. So if you have any questions, and I promise you, you will, I want you to go ahead and enter your questions in the webinar, and those will be the questions that I use when interviewing Lynn in addition to the questions that she and I have already prepared for you. So without any further delay, I just want to jump right in. So, Lynn, how long have you been in the real estate industry?
Since the late 1970s, as an affiliate with a company that did title work in Maryland, and then as a real estate agent, selling and listing homes in Maryland and Northern Virginia, and then later as a buyer's agent in Maryland and Northern Virginia, working for other brokers, and then finally as my own broker. I am a broker in Maryland and and Virginia now.
And we're going to get to the specifics on how you're running your business. That's what the bulk of the interview is going to be about. So, guys, get ready to take notes. I promise you, she is not a traditional real estate broker by any means. So, Lynn, where do you sell real estate? I put kind of quotes around the word sell because you personally don't really sell that much real estate anymore yourself, from what I understand.
Our market area covers all of Maryland and all of Northern Virginia. I do, however, because of the IDX interest on my websites do attract home buyers inquiring or home sellers inquiring about our services from West Virginia, some parts of Pennsylvania, and going south into Virginia, into the Norfolk area and Richmond area.
Okay.
But basically it's Maryland and Northern Virginia.
So Novo, Maryland, the whole, and you do or don't get into like Washington, D.C., that area?
No, I do. It is close. It's contiguous with Maryland and Northern Virginia, but it's not a primary area for me. I don't advertise there, but I do get leads there, and I do refer them, and I do get paid on them.
All right, so you're now basically leading perfectly into the next question. We're talking about referrals. Tell them about how your real estate broke. You know what? It'd be interesting. I didn't have this as a question, Lynn, but I enjoyed it yesterday or the day before when you told me about it. How did you go about, like, starting your current real estate business model, and describe how it works? Remember the story you were telling me about, basically you going in one day and saying all your agents have a year to get their broker's license?
Oh, that, yes. I employed, from 1998, I was a broker manager for a real estate brokerage in Maryland and Virginia that employed agents, or what, as we like to say, they hung their license on my wall. which so I held their licenses, and we had upwards of, from time to time, as many as 25 agents. That doesn't sound like a lot when compared to the mega brokers, but for a small company, it is a lot. My forte is in business generation because of my internet presence, and I generate the business for the agents. The agents do the selling. I do the pre-qualifying for most, but the agents also have their own connections with lenders and inspection companies and title companies. So they did the case management in those cases, and I just referred the business to them, referred buyers, qualified buyers to the agents. But after a while, it was apparent that they were becoming, meaning my treasured agents. I love every one of them, and I still do. But they were getting, what's the term that it's used? Fat and lazy, I think.
I think that's a term, technically.
They were enjoying the business, and none of them had ever generated any business. In fact, most of them were new licensees when they came with me because I never recruited agents. They came to me, and most of them were friends or relatives of existing agents in my company. But after a while, they just wanted to lean on Lenn for this and lean on Lenn for that. And I remember one agent. It was very clear to her that she had a good buyer. I had pre-qualified the buyer because it was a little bit complicated relocation buyer, and this agent found the house, wrote the contract, and then promptly went on vacation.
Huh.
And that meant that Lenn was left with the home inspection and preparing the buyer for settlement. That's one thing that an agent never wants to do, is have Lenn take over a contract, because Lenn will uncover every wrong thing they ever did on it.
So at some point, can we stop talking about you in the third person? It's a little bit creepy.
And anyway, I did the home inspection, and when I sent the agent their commission check, I deducted 25% of the commission, the full commission, instead of taking my usual 30% at that time, I took an additional 25%. And she wanted to, Lenn, my check is wrong. No, your check is not wrong. I charged you for doing the home inspection and preparing the buyer for settlement. Oh, I thought you would do that, Lenn. Meaning they were just leaning on me, and that was typical of the way things had evolved. That Lenn could be called on at 8 o'clock at night when something tricky came up, and Lenn could be called on to do this and do that. So starting January 1, 2006, we had a meeting, and I informed everyone that Lenn was going out of the broker management business, and Lenn, I was. I'm not fond of the first person myself.
So you were getting at. I appreciate that. So Lenn decided that she was getting out of the adult daycare business.
Right. I gave them a year to get their own broker's license. These are all good agents. They're wonderful agents and very devoted to buyer agency, which is really my devotion, if there is a devotion in this business. So I got them all through broker school. About 15 of them finished. And interestingly, one went to law school, turned her license in, went to law school, and another gentleman turned his license in and became an opera singer, which I thought was just fascinating. So a year later, I sent all their licenses back, and they opened their own companies. So that now they're their own independent broker owners, managers, and they have all of their own risk. And there's nobody to call on when something has to be done except themselves.
So you just you looked at the business and you decided what you like about it and what you don't like about it, and you figured out a way to make the business your business, which is called home.
Business generation is critical. Right. Without the buyers, you have no business.
Well, and you're so good at it too.
And that's exactly what I do best.
The name of your business, we should say that, is Homefinders.
Homefinders.com.
Right. So a lot of you guys, especially if you're in that whole Nova area, you've heard of Homefinders. I mean, Lenn was one of the first brokers in the nation to start massive lead generation online. I mean, Lenn, when did you actually?
I decided early 1995 that I wanted a website. Once I found out what a website was, and I had a local web design company design the website for me. We bought Homefinders.com in May of 1995. It's hard to go back that far, isn't it?
Well, the thing that people don't understand if they're just kind of getting online now, especially, frankly, if they're about younger than I'd say 35, in the mid-'90s, the Internet really didn't come online commercially until like 1996.
That's right.
Yeah, so
that's
you were
right.
way
And
ahead
Google,
of the curve.
I predate Google. I'm before Google. I mean, that's why I speak Google, because I watched Google grow up. And I learned to speak Google as Google learned to speak search engine optimization.
Exactly. So cutting edge back then was you've got mail, right?
Yeah, that's it. I got mail. I went online. I did have to do some self-education because my delightful little web design company didn't know that when they put the website on the net that it wouldn't be everywhere. And they didn't know what a search engine was. And in those days, we didn't have search engines as such. There were a couple, but most of the online sources were directories, like Yahoo. Yahoo was a big directory at that time. And web crawler, and there were a number. Most of them are gone now. Yahoo's still around, but most of them are gone now. And so I spent 2 weeks trying to figure out how to get my website with some kind of synergy on the internet, and finally cracked the code and got it online on the search engines and the directories, and that's when the business really came in. And I had my first settlement in November of 1995, and just the market that I was looking for, a relocating home buyer coming from Germany. She was employed by the Army and being transferred to Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland, and I sold her a house. That was my first one. And after that, it just mushroomed. Literally,
through referrals, you've been involved in thousands more sales since then. So
right.
we're going to get to those little tidbits in a minute. But guys, here's the point. I mean, Lenn has been there, done that, and she, frankly, as I said, was one of the first movers on internet marketing in the real estate industry in the nation. I mean, when did Realtor.com go live, Lenn? You predated Realtor.com, didn't you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the lion coming over the hill speech was. I won't go into that. The president of the National Association of Realtors made a speech about the looming interest of the internet in the real estate business, and he was absolutely right. And Realtor.com, I can't remember the exact date. I'm sure some of the listeners will remember.
Someone will say it on the webinar. Guys, remember, you can enter questions into the webinar. So enter in your questions at any time. I just wanted to cover some of the basic.
But it would have been in the mid 90s. Let's say 90. Wait a minute, 90, 95, 96, 97. It would have been around 97, I think, 96, 97. But I'm not sure.
So, I don't have this as a question on my thing, but I bet you have a great answer. What do you think that, and this is going back to this late 90s, this Brad Inman, when he started Inman News Features and the rest of it, and the big theme was disintermediation of the realtor. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about with that asking. So do you think disintermediation, guys, that was like the buzzword in the late 90s, the realtors are going to be disintermediated, taken out of the middle of the transaction. Do you think that's ever going to happen, or do you think it already has happened?
Oh, I believe it's already happened, and most of us still can't spell it.
Myself included. That's the reason I haven't asked Julie. So when I can't spell something, I ask Julie.
And he has a paid subscription.
That's right.
I believe it's already happened, and that's why we must constantly innovate to be able to survive.
Well, it's happened in very subtle ways too, as far as disintermediation back when, I mean, Julie and obviously Lynn, we've been in the real estate industry for a long time. We were the gatekeepers for pretty much all things, information with regards to housing. I mean, some of you guys that haven't been in the business that long, we used to actually have a book, and it was actually against the board rules, your local board of realtors rules, to give that book of listings to a consumer. I don't know if it's actually a written down rule or just sort of an understanding that you absolutely had to hoard the information no matter what. And man, the internet's changed all that. Now it's interesting. Realtors used to be the first step when you were getting into the home buying process. And now it seems like we're way further down the food chain after people do their own homework, after they maybe even find a lender, locate, in some cases, a house by going to various websites. So disintermediation actually happened, but fortunately it wasn't as I would say, career-ending as many people thought it was, for example, like it happened to the travel agents and so forth.
Well, interestingly enough, buying a home finding the home to buy is really the easy part. The tough part comes when you find the home and now you've got to write a contract, and for that they do need help.
They do. Yep, absolutely. Negotiate the contract, especially in today's day and age where there's short sales and there's REOs and there's all these others.
Very complicated today.
Sure,
very complicated.
And
risky.
It is. It is significantly more complicated and significantly more risky and significantly more onerous than it was even 3 years ago, isn't it? It's quite amazing. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so let's talk specifically. You said before that your role in Home Finders is essentially as the lead generator. So briefly describe what that means and then tell them how you go about basically disseminating your leads.
I get the inquiries either through email or through a telephone call. And if it's an email, if there's a phone number, I have three must be in the lead. A lead isn't a lead. It's just it's not even, I don't really send out leads. I refer. I make it if it's not a referral with a name, a phone number, and an email address, it's not a referral. It's merely a lead. And I don't send out simple leads because that would mean that the agent would have to do the development of the lead, and I'd rather have them out, or my broker partners, I should say. I'd rather have them out showing and selling real estate.
Well, it's not a subtle point. You get the lead, but you refer out a client.
Yes, exactly. So if the lead that comes in by email has all of those things, I may pick up the phone and call them, or I may send them to an agent or to one of my broker partners that will then pick up the phone and call them. We do call them because they've given us the invitation to call them, which is important because they put their phone number in the form, the contact form. If they call, I'm the one that answers the phone, or I'm the one that returns their message. It's engaging the buyer on the phone or prospective buyer on the phone and talking about their qualifications and the type and location of home that they're interested in. It's really very simple. After all these years, I can do it very well. The important part about talking to people is to engage them and let them know that there's somebody that's going to help them. Because even though there's a lot online and there's a lot in print, there's a lot everywhere. The social media has a lot. Buyers, consumers do not understand real estate, the complicated process of buying a home. And when they hear someone that's going to help them get financing, help them find their home, help them get to settlement, then you have a real good, solid home buyer.
Let's take it back a little bit further because you're at a perfect spot, but I just want to really clarify. You have how many different websites?
I don't know.
It's a lot.
That will tell you how many. I don't know, over 100.
And differing degrees, right? But those websites then generate mostly buyer leads. Please feel free to correct me if I say anything wrong. Those buyer leads then, people are asking for information. You require that they give you, obviously, their name, their phone number, the specifics as far as what they're looking for in terms of a house. And then, and this is something that I really want to emphasize here, Lynn, because you and I talked about this on the pre-call. It's something that a lot of agents don't do. You then pick up the phone and you call them.
Absolutely.
And then you solidify that lead and then turn that lead into a buyer client. That secret sauce there, the good old-fashioned picking up the phone and pre-qualifying, and I know you don't call it really pre-qualifying. Well, it is pre-qualifying.
It is pre-qualifying, yes.
Right.
And I can do that. I understand financing. I understand mortgage qualification. I understand, and I know geographically, I know this area very well. Most of the time, if they're in a particular price range in a particular location, I may have looked at listings or seen homes or know builders or know developments right in that geographical area. So knowledge of your market is essential. That's
100% true. And another thing that a lot of agents try to frankly pass over nowadays. They think they can basically learn everything when they have to, and knowing all the little condo developments, even in a market like this where everyone talks about depreciation, there are still pockets, even in the worst markets in the country, there's still pockets. Sometimes it falls down to just a handful of streets that are doing extremely well for whatever little reason. You've got to know those little subtleties.
We have them, and they're primarily the top-ranked school districts. They're in the top-ranked school districts around metro stops or the Virginia Rail in Virginia. Very close proximity to D.C. in Bethesda. Rural areas that are very attractive for people that are seeking rural home sites in the not-too-distant locations from the. You have to know the market around the employment centers, and what are the employment centers? Meaning high-tech corridors. We have a biotech corridor in Maryland, a high-tech corridor in Virginia, and these are and also military sites. Military sites are important. If you know the market around military sites, you're going to be able to help those relocating military buyers.
And when Julie and I were selling real estate in Central Ohio, it was anything that was, well, within reason, that was close to Ohio State University. Mm-hmm. Any of the Capitol buildings where city employees worked. A tendency for neighborhoods to do really well if they had strong Catholic school systems, dioceses, and the rest of it. I mean, guys, the bottom line is no matter how bad you think your real estate market is, as Lynn made a fantastic point, you've got to know your market really well. Because there's going to be pockets that are going to do really well. There's going to be pockets that are going to be, frankly, recession-proof. That's true in every city.
When the gas went up, when the price of gasoline went up, our close to D.C. market skyrocketed. In fact, we had price increases close in Arlington and Alexandria in Northern Virginia for the last 3 years. Once gas got over $4, and now it's tipping up towards $3 again. People live near metros or right across the bridge from Washington. So that's very important.
Yeah, and so these are the types of conversations that you have with a lead when they're becoming a client, and then you're pre-qualifying them financially and all these other types of things. Now, something that you said on our pre-call, which I think is interesting, you don't require that they speak to a lender first, and I am also assuming you don't require that they sign some sort of buyer agency contract either, correct?
No, not on the first visit.
So you basically, the way you treat or the way you coach your brokers to treat the new buyer leads that you send to them, the buyer clients you send to them, is that they get the first trip they're going out about, and you're kind of getting to know each other. It's dating, as it were, right?
Right. That's exactly right. That one get to know each other trip. The buyer gets to know the agent, and the agent gets to know the buyer. And if they decide to work together. In Maryland, of course, they have to be noticed of the agency laws, meaning we'll work as a buyer's agent, as a seller's agent, or as a dual agent. Well, that's easy for us because we're all buyer's agents. In Virginia, the notice isn't required unless it gets complicated. I won't go into it. But once you decide to work together, then we encourage buyer agency agreements simply because in Maryland, if you don't have a buyer agency agreement, you're technically not a buyer's agent. You can be presumed to be a buyer's agent, but you're technically not a buyer's agent. You're really a sub-agent of the seller, and you're not really as free to give them your opinions about resale properties or new home properties or builders or anything that you would be able to do if you had a buyer agency agreement.
And
in Virginia, it's a little different.
And you could explain that, know your agency laws, explain that to your buyer clients and let them make their own decision. But what I'm hearing from Lenn, which I hope a lot of you are sort of internalizing here, is that because she's pre-qualifying at a high level, because she's using a lot of, frankly, years of experience, she doesn't necessarily feel like she needs to have them sign anything that's going to obligate them to her, because she knows from asking the right questions and going through the whole pre-qualifying process, she knows whether they're real or not. And she knows her agents her brokers are going to be doing a great job of making sure those actually turn into closed transactions.
Right.
So all of your websites, how many, you and I tried to add this up the other day. I think you did a better job than I did. How many unique visitors are you getting a month?
About 25,000 a month.
Okay, so a unique visitor is not a hit, guys. Don't confuse the two. Anyone who knows anything about it.
Oh, no, hits are in the millions.
Hits are kind of an erroneous way.
There's nothing. Every image is a hit.
That's right. So, guys, a unique visitor. So she has 25,000 unique people, individuals, go to one of her websites every single month. And what is your goal from all of those unique visitors? Do you have specific, like monthly, weekly, daily goals as far as
I have a daily goal of sending out to our agents 2 good, pre-qualified, solid referrals a day.
Okay, a day. All right.
And that may fluctuate. I may send out 4, 5, 6 in a day, or I may send out, yesterday I sent out nothing because I was out of town all day.
So give me an idea of what your typical day is like. You have all these websites; they're generating a lot of activity every single day. You're having a lot of, a lot of people that are asking. I'm sure. Tell us how you manage your day? How do you go about sifting and sorting from all the information you're gathering?
It's managing the email first in the morning, because there is a lot of evening and overnight and early morning email. Although few people get up earlier than I do, but I'm on my computer earlier, and I review all the mail that comes in, and if it's a good, solid, complete lead mail or content form that's completely filled out, I'll answer it and tell the buyer. I may tell the buyer that thank you for contacting Home Finder. We'll be glad to help you. On and on. The area that I describe some little interesting tidbit about the area in which they're looking, and we know where they're looking because the website comes from that particular site. A geographical location. It'll have an identification on it. And then I'll tell them that I'm copying this mail to so-and-so. That'll be one of the brokers, and I expect a call later this morning, and then I may send it out. If it's something where I think I may need more information, or if they've inquired about grants or loans or anything in the financing field, then I'll wait and call them myself.
So you said something very important again, very subtle but important. You said completed form. You said You're looking through your email for a completed form. So you're asking for what information constitutes a completed form? It
has a name, a phone number. That's critical. Hopefully day and evening phone numbers. An email address, of course, not something that's been blanked out, because no serious buyer is going to do that. Nope. And in their remarks, the remarks are very interesting. If you get a remark section that says, we are a military family relocating from such and such to Fort Meade in Maryland, and will be interested in buying a home in the $300,000 to $400,000 range within 45 minutes of Fort Meade. And you see what I'm saying? We know what they want. We know they're a buyer. They're a military buyer. They're employed. I've rarely met a military buyer that had bad credit. That's as good a solid lead as anyone would want ever. Then there was the one that I got from a gentleman in Georgia that said, I'm relocating to Montgomery County. I'm thinking Potomac, and my sons are going to be going to American University. We want a location within 25 minutes of American University in Montgomery County, and our price range is $3 to $5 million. That one didn't go out. I kept that one myself and sold him a $5 million home. Of course, I called him later in the morning, and I sent him a relocation package that was so comprehensive. I think it cost me about $150 to mail it, but I did that happily.
Yeah, that was worth the hypothetical $150,000 commission. Or
and he
it was.
bought. We communicated by email and telephone for another 30 days. He came up with his lovely wife. We toured Northern Virginia luxury homes, because you can get to AU from Northern Virginia in about 30 minutes, and Potomac Homes for the afternoon. And the next morning, he went into the builder. We took him into the builder, and he bought a $4,999,000 home.
Yeah, but it wasn't $5 million. He did not want to go up. That was his price
point. He didn't go
point.
to $5 million. But one day.
Well, he'll move up. But, so the interesting thing about here is, I hope you guys are listening, is that if someone sends in a lead, for example, sends in a form, and it's missing a phone number, let's say, what do you do with that?
I email them back and say, we'll be glad to help you. Kindly, I'm very, very polite, very polite. Kindly send me an email, kindly send me a phone number so we can contact you, get the details of your needs, and schedule and get you set up for a tour of nice homes.
So if they don't, what are the things in the form? Do they have to completely complete the form for you to follow up?
Well, that is complete. The form's not that long.
Okay. But if they don't put in, for example, their description of what they're looking for, you'll email them back and ask
We'll call them, email them back.
Okay,
what
gotcha.
particular area are you interested in? Have you determined a price range yet? And they'll email back. If people are serious, you'll hear back from them. If they're not, that's it.
Well, and it's interesting, Lynn. Why do you think realtors will work with folks that are not as motivated? Why do you think that happens? I'm sure that you saw that happen with your agents when you had your brokerage. Why is it you think realtors sometimes will compromise those values and try to make a non-motivated lead into a motivated lead?
I don't think they know how to identify motivation. I don't know why anybody would, because you can't create motivation in people. They are either motivated to buy a home or they're not. And I don't know. I haven't met many people who are out. People value their time. We value our time. They value their time. And I don't believe that there are a lot of people out just looking. I believe that if people are out, my experience is, if people are willing to spend a day or an afternoon to get in my vehicle and drive around and look at homes, they've got to have an interest in buying a home.
How long do you counsel your brokers or train new agents to work with a buyer? How many trips, how much time before you just decide that?
It depends on the agent. I'll take them out 3 or 4 times with different buyers. We have a lot of, now most of these people, don't forget, they're experienced now. They're their own brokers now. But new agents that I bring on board as a network, a Home Finders network partner, they have to understand that there are certain things that I require for them to be able to get my referrals. And that's in keeping with keeping my advertising honest. For instance, I don't refer buyers to agents who don't want to make sure that the buyer gets a 1-year free home warranty on their purchase. I want to make sure that they understand that when we represent a new home buyer, even if we're not don't have a buyer's agency agreement, if we're working with a new home buyer, that we don't just take them in, register them, and then send them on their way. We follow them and help them all the way through to settlement, because we have more experience than that buyer. But as long as the agents understand how I work to represent a buyer, and that's the way they do it, then there's no problem.
So let's put numbers to all of this. I think we have a good grasp of how your system works. You lead generate. You have a lot of websites that work in harmony. We're going to talk a little bit more of the mechanics of the SEO stuff and some of the things you're doing to send traffic to those sites. We're going to get to some of those specifics, and Lynn, you can get into that as much or as little as you'd like. But let's actually put some numbers to this. So you're generating 25,000 unique visitors per month. It's your goal. I think you made that clear. It's your goal to generate at least 2 buyer referrals for your agents, for your brokers every single day. So you generate so many, obviously hundreds, thousands of buyer referrals. What percent close?
Oh, about 30 to 50% of the referrals, plus whatever I sell.
All right, so plus whatever you sell. So 30 to 50% of the referrals that you send out to your brokerage.
Some agents are better than others. Some will sell 50%, some will sell 70%, and some will sell 30%. If they don't meet that 30% goal after a while, I stop sending business to them.
So just doing some basic math in my head, you are literally getting paid on, is it safe to say, hundreds of referrals per year?
Goodness, yes.
Yeah. So, and we're talking about, I know your average commission, like the rest of the country, has dropped because the average sale price has dropped, but your average referral fee is probably $1,500 to $2,000 bucks?
Yeah.
So, guys, listen to what she's talking about. These are referrals that she is generating, that she's sending out to a network of agents. And the beauty of all this, Lynn, is really you've created this lead generation machine. I mean, you've created essentially your own little private website network, and those are capturing buyer leads. And then they, no matter how high-tech that is, then they go through a high-touch stage when they're talking with you. And then you solidify them, send them off to your agents, and your brokers then close them, and then you're getting referral fees. It's what I want folks to hear here, understand, is that those buyers are not sitting in your car.
No,
you're not actually right. I mean, how many actual transactions do you try to do every year, personally?
4 to 6.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's great.
I have other things to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I really I avoid taking a buyer on as my client because of the time involved. I would rather have the time to devote to working my websites, updating my websites, keeping my website presence viable, and learning the newest social networking craze, and studying the latest Google
webmaster guidelines.
Whatever Google's dreaming up today.
Sneaking in on us.
But that's my time is best spent bringing business in than actual selling, because the time involved for the tour, for the selection, for the contracting, for the negotiation, for the home inspection, if you really work a buyer intensely, and I do, then you're pretty much almost full-time working for that client until they're settled.
I just glanced at the questions on the webinar. We have quite a few questions coming in that fortunately we've already answered along the way, but agents from around the country are asking if you have referrals outside of Nova area, and the answer is probably not very often, right?
Do I do what? What was that?
Well, I just had an agent, for example, in San Francisco ask if you have any referrals that you'd like to send her way.
I get those requests every day, and the answer is I don't. Since I'm not a listing agent, I rarely run into people who are relocating out. My communication is with people who contact me directly because they're relocating in. So I don't have much outgoing business. I do occasionally because my website is so big, and because I blog a lot about topical matters, not geographic, but topical. I'll get an inquiry from someone, and for instance, I had an inquiry from a VA owner, an owner with a VA loan who was upside down on his loan, and he needed help with a VA compromise sale. And he happened to he Googled it and ran into one of my blogs about the VA compromise sale. So he contacted me, and I referred him to an agent in Boise, Idaho.
Iowa, yeah. Leslie moved it. So, Lynn, let's kind of go down that road in a second as far as how you're going about keeping your content on your sites fresh. Somebody just asked, what websites? Are you doing anything with Twitter? Are you doing anything with Facebook and LinkedIn and all the others?
I have a Twitter account, and all of my blog posts are reposted on Twitter. It's an automatic feed. They go on Twitter. I don't work Twitter, but I do keep fresh content there, and what it's going to be is my latest blog posts. Almost all of them go into Twitter.
Same with Facebook.
The ones that are too hot to handle.
Same with Facebook then, basically?
Facebook I do a little bit more with. I have a regular account on Facebook, a personal account, but I also have I have a business account with Facebook, and it's for one county. It's for Loudoun County, where I live, and it's facebook.com/Loudoun County.
Well, so that's interesting. So let's just go ahead and get into that. So you're basically, I mean, we talked a little bit yesterday about the different URLs and how you have these really segregated websites. And the essence of it is that you've basically you've micro-focused in a way. So like you and I were talking about different URLs that an agent might want to get when they're setting up their own web presence. And you said an agents almost always flock to get their names. Now, it's probably a good idea to own your name, but you're saying as far as when you're first getting online or when you're wanting to take your online activity to the next level, you should focus on what type of URLs. Give us some good examples.
Google gives a lot of weight to URLs that have geography. In other words, and the purpose of the website, real estate Loudoun, real estate Loudoun County, real estate Northern Virginia, real estate Montgomery County, real estate Gaithersburg, Maryland. So you'll get a certain weight in a Google when your sites are ranked. That will carry some weight with Google. The rest of your weight is carried by, or how Google ranks you is carried by your title, your meta title, and it should also have your geographic location and what you do. Having your name as your URL, as your domain name, is worthless because nobody's going to be searching for you. If you want people to search for you, put it on Twitter or Facebook.
Where were you in 1995 when we bought timandjulieharris.com?
I don't know, but I
when we were selling real estate. That was cutting edge.
I bought homefinders.com.
Yeah, I should have known you then. You were ahead of your time. So what you're suggesting to agents is that, and this is a very important subtle point here, guys, is like Julie and I had NewAlbanyOhio.com, and I pridefully pointed that out to Lynn the other day, and she said, no, you should have had realestatenewalbanyohio.com,
right.
Which is an excellent point. But guys, so you're thinking to yourselves right now, well, that's not a very good, website address, but you're thinking in terms of not thinking in terms of how Google goes about defining what because your ultimate goal here is so when a home buyer or maybe a seller is doing a search, they're going to find you first. So what Lynn has done, and Lynn, jump on me if I say anything wrong, is you have set up a whole bunch of different websites that all start with a really great website name, as for example, Loudoun County Real Estate or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
And those are all basic. Some of those are static sites, correct?
Most of them are.
Okay, what's a static site? We shouldn't assume anything.
No, it's not a blog. That's the easy way to describe it. It's not a blog.
It doesn't get updated. It's basically
it gets updated, but you have to go into the server and actually update the content in the content language that's used in HTML or some other content language. Whereas a blog, they're designed so that anyone with the password and what do I want to say?
Password, username, anyone that can access.
Username and password can go in and add a post to a blog.
Right. Blogs and websites, guys. I say blog all the time. I should say website, but blogs and websites are the same thing.
Yeah. But they're all websites, but one is interactive and one is static.
That's right.
The difference.
So, and again, a blog is something that, frankly, anybody can set up. The basics of using a WordPress blog are something that if you can read something and click a button that says on or off, I mean, you can set up a WordPress blog. It's really quite easy.
Right.
Great. So some of your sites are static sites. Some of your sites are WordPress sites. I'm sure you probably even use some other different blogging software as well.
I just use the old El Cheapo free WordPress.
So you go to WordPress.org, right, to set up free WordPress blogs?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so that's the basic stuff. Now, what if I already go to one of your websites? So we know homefinders.com. That would be a good website for the agents to check out. Right. And one of the feeder sites, what would be a URL that the agents can see to see what one of the the feeder sites? You mean
for another static website?
Thank you. Yes.
Let's see. What's a good one? Real Estate Lovettsville, RealEstateLovettsVille.com.
Okay. Now, here's something she said before, guys. You then are writing fresh content, unique content, and that content is specific, targeted, almost like a laser beam, as far as Lovettsville, for example. So you go in there and you'll write about something specific, unique to Lovettsville. Give the agents an idea of what you're doing to create unique content.
Oh, if you look at the website, you'll see, go to the site map, and I always have a site map, always. Google loves site maps. I have a page for Tour Lovettsville, Virginia, your real estate connection, moving to Lovettsville, Lovettsville attractions, and each of those headings have anywhere from 5 to 10 titles. Each one is a separate page. So each page is individually searchable with their own meta tags. Each page is a standalone page, but they're all under realestatelovettsville.com.
So you guys don't have to know what meta tags mean and title tags and all that. If you set up a WordPress blog or have someone set up a WordPress blog for you automatically, WordPress, for the most part, does all that stuff for you automatically.
Right.
So just don't be overwhelmed by what she's saying. Now, so these websites, you're creating, how much time every single day are you devoting to creating content for your websites?
I don't create that much content once the site is up. I update it for relevancy or for dates often, but not much. Once they're up, they're up. But what I do is blog on Active Rain and then link back to the website, because even though fresh content is important, a link is just as important, and in some cases more important. Text links are very important to search engine ranking.
So, let's get specifics here, because we have to assume that most of the people listening don't really know what you're talking about.
Okay, I'll write a blog on Active Rain about, or one of my little WordPress blogs, about a local community or a feature in a local community or a new development, housing development, and then I'll highlight some text material. It may say New Homes Lovettsville or Leesburg Ice Cream Shop. Highlight that and link it back to my Leesburg site. And I'll have a page on my Leesburg site with local attractions, and one of them will be the local ice cream parlor.
Hold on a second. The breather's back. Whoever just unmuted their phone, please remute it. You're the breather. I don't know if you heard that. It drives me nuts. Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt you. So you're basically writing specific, targeted, focused content.
Yes.
That when Google's then it gets indexed inside Google, which means basically she'll write this article. The article then will be something that's specifically relevant to anyone that was looking in that particular area. It's a focused thing. So she's not just writing on, like, Leesburg, Virginia. She's writing on maybe a specific community in Leesburg and on the specific school, because she knows when someone's relocating, they're going to be hypothetically looking for schools. They're going to be looking for a specific community. And then Google loves specific targeted content like that. And then when they do a search using the keywords, her blog post, her article, if you will, comes up high on the search engine rankings for free, by the way, guys. None of this costs anything. And then that's how she's generating.
And Google tracks it right back to the website.
That's right. And then when they land on the website, and we gave you guys a couple of her URLs, her web addresses, so you can go and check them out, then she has a very nice way, and we're going to talk about push versus pull marketing here in a second. They'll then ask for more information. They fill out her form, and assuming they fill out the form correctly and completely, she then calls up, and that's essentially the whole system. Not very complicated. I mean, that's something, Lynn, that's beautiful about it, is how elegantly simple it is. Most realtors try to overcomplicate it. Did you experiment with different layers of complexity before you came up with this system?
My websites are as simple-minded as I am.
All right. So you'll speak.
And some of them are just as ugly.
So you'll speak of yourself in the first person, where you're basically being a little bit hard on yourself, I've noticed. All right.
I've got some of the ugliest old websites online, but they still generate business.
They work. That's right.
Because they're technically correct.
So, Lynn, I know there's agents out there right now that are sort of like going into the ether as far as understanding what we're talking about. And I guess if you're an agent, and we're going to go to push and pull and some of the SEO technical stuff, but if you're an agent and you wanted to get started, what do you think like the first 3 steps an agent should take if they're wanting or if they're finally understanding the importance of a web presence? Someone asked, Mark in Stockton asked, what are the 10 steps I need to develop a web presence? But Mark, for the sake of time, I'm going to scale that back to 3. What would you suggest, Lynn?
Get a webmaster who will create a format for your website and write some good, solid content about the area and make sure that it's technically correct, and then get it on Google. Google will register. Google will index anything that you've got a link to it. Put up a blog. If you're not an Active Rain member, join. Get a blog and write an article about the area, and then link that back to your website. Google will follow the link to your website and then index your website. This thing about the Google sandbox is a myth, in my opinion.
The Google what?
The Google sandbox.
What are you talking about?
When you put up a new site, webmasters love to say, well, don't expect to see it online for 6 months because Google puts all new sites in the sandbox. They don't.
Oh, well, the same myth is perpetuated about duplicate content, too.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah. But at any rate, get a good website. Get it online, and then pay attention to what happens. If you get email, answer it. If you get a telephone call, answer it. Be nice. And don't push people. Don't push yourself on people. It's a good time to talk about push and pull.
Well, it is. Well, let me just throw in a couple of caveats. Don't go to Active Rain or any other website and don't say anything negative. Sometimes, especially on Active Rain, Lynn, I know you know this, agents don't understand that the snippy little comments that they make sometimes get indexed into Google and are attached to their names forever. So
yes.
If you guys should all do what we call an ego search, in other words, put your name into Google and find out what is attached to your name, and find out if that little snippy comment you made about so-and-so realtor or so-and-so broker, or what you had an opinion of this politician or that politician from 4 years ago, it probably still comes up in your name. So, guys, remember, everything you do goes into your permanent Google file. All right, so push versus pull marketing.
One of the reasons that I only save about 2 good leads a day on the average is because I rely solely on pull advertising. All agents, if they're with any large brokerage, are trained from the day they get their license to go knock on doors, push yourself in their face, send out mail. Now, sending out mail is not really that pushy because they can just toss it in the trash can. Carry a bunch of cards and stick it in everybody's face no matter where you go. Go to this meeting and find some time to stick your card in everybody's face wherever you are. That's pushing yourself onto people. If you get a few people in your database, send them mail all the time. Call them up. They love to say call, telephone somebody every month. There's nothing more aggravating than to be called by someone clearly trying to sell you something or sell their services to you when you may not need it for the next 5 years.
Well, that right there is the caveat, though. Let me throw that on there, okay? Because if you're calling somebody every single month, your centers of influence and past clients, but you're calling offering them information, if you're calling giving them an update on housing, if you're giving them something of value, that is completely different than what she's saying she has avoided her whole life and tells other agents to avoid as well.
And I would even avoid that because I would put it in a nice, friendly report format and mail it to them.
Okay.
Much less intrusive.
Yep. Okay. A great contact is a great contact. Okay.
Yeah. But the best pull advertiser anywhere is Google. If you have a decent website or a good blog, a website that is a good static website or a good blog, Google will rank it. And when people search for you, they will find you. That's the ultimate pull advertising. You put yourself out there and you pull them in. There's no pressure, there's no angst, there's no negative effects at all. On the other hand, if you push yourself on people, it's got to be hard on the liver. I just can't imagine doing it. But I know people are trained to do it, and they think that's what you should do. I get calls from people agents whose they'll see a hit on one of their IDX listings, and they'll call me up and say, "It looks like you've got somebody looking at my listing here. Would you kindly call them and ask them if they're interested?" No, I won't do that.
Well, you said a lot of interesting things there, and I think really what the essence of it is that you understand that you have to give before you get, right? So
yes.
You're giving something of value. You're giving
a lot of information.
A lot of information. That's right. And then the cream rises to the
yes.
rises to the top. That's basically the formulaic way that you're going about this. So
yes.
guys, don't be confused. But even though Lenn and I are not talking about it right now, I promise you that Lenn has, even though she might not call them scripts, she's using scripts, things that she's honed over her career. She knows what to say. She knows what questions to ask. She's following, in a lot of ways, even though I'm sure it moves around, she is following a step-by-step process to help somebody go through the process of understanding what they qualify for, where they want to live, and all of that. And the mistake, Lenn, that a lot of agents make is they throw up these websites. They figure all the leads will just pile them into an IDEX feed. They'll never call them. They never do anything except send them emails, and they think somehow, miraculously, that's going to materialize into closable transactions. But they're missing the step that you do.
Once we have a phone number, that's an invitation to call me. They're asking us to call.
Yeah, it's legal, too, for those of you who are
Absolutely.
hyper worried about the whole do not call thing. If they
Absolutely.
send you, that's right. Okay, cool. So as far as the things that an agent should do, I think we kind of covered those things. That's good basic stuff. As far as doing your own SEO work, we talked about the different things that you do, and you said something the other day, which I think is very valid, worth repeating, among other things, obviously, is just go ahead and get a copy of the Google Webmaster Guidelines. And that's
yes, read it. It has everything.
Yep, that's basically it. So, guys, if you want to really cut through it and learn this stuff yourself, that's really the best way to go about it. And if you don't have time, inclination, or if you don't have really the desire to have the technical expertise like what Lenn does, find somebody you trust. Lenn, how would you suggest an agent goes about finding it? You said find a good webmaster.
I would go to Google, and I would search for webmasters in my area, and I would look at their website, and I would also look at their portfolio. Look at the portfolio of that webmaster, web design company, or webmaster, whatever they call themselves. And if in their portfolio you see websites that are ranked high in Google, you got a good webmaster. If their websites are obscure and they've got them on their portfolio, but Google doesn't rank them, or their meta tag, I don't want to get into meta tags, but in other words, if they can't show you that they have created well synergized on Google websites, that's not somebody you want to give money to.
Or if they can't show you that they've done it for themselves. I mean, to your point about searching.
Exactly. If their site isn't searchable, well, they're not going to,
If they're not on the first page using a fairly generic search term like webmasters in Bethesda, Maryland, or whatever, if they haven't figured out how to get themselves on the first page of Google, they're not going to do it for yourself. Yeah, that's a basic thing. All right.
That's how I would find one.
So we had some interesting questions come in. I want to cover some of these questions. Okay, so Mark from Stockton, who's always a great question asker on these calls, he said, who makes the most inexpensive websites? And that would be WordPress.org because they're free. I don't think you get – now, Active Rain does have a free version of their website, but it does not get indexed into Google. So dubious as far as whether or not you want to do it. I think, and Lenn and I are not getting paid to promote Active Rain, but there is a paid version of the Active Rain sites now that has some absolutely breathtakingly fantastic SEO benefits, search engine optimization built right into it.
$29 a month, I think.
Is that what it is, $29? Yeah, it's super cheap. It's like, and I know some agents are like, $29 for a website, but guys, some people are paying literally thousands of dollars and not getting as much in terms of search. Jonathan and his crew over there have just done a sublime job for all the agents.
They know what they're doing.
In a big way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see what other questions we have. Oh, I had an agent here that actually wants to, Julie, are you there? Julie, you're muted.
Yes, I'm unmuted now.
Okay, did you see that agent that actually wanted to talk with Lenn about being an agent for her? The agent who actually asked me that question, could you put that information back into the webinar so I can pass that information along to Lenn, the agent on the call who's in her area?
Tell them to go to Home Finders and give me a telephone call.
Yeah, there you go. Go to Home Finders, give her a phone call, and talk with her. So, Lenn, if you don't mind, let's kind of reverse direction. I really prize and treasure talking to agents that have been in the industry as long as you have, because you have more of a perspective. We're moving away from kind of the internet marketing, and you and I talked about this, and I really appreciated some of the comments you made. You've been through a whole bunch of real estate recessions and slowdowns and speed-ups and mini bubbles and big bubbles and high interest rates and low interest rates and all kinds of different cycles because of how long you've been in the industry.
Thank you, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, well,
for the high
there you go, right?
Rates.
And maybe we're going back to that time now. What are your expectations when you run into agents that ask you these questions? What do you think the next 5 years in the real estate industry is going to be like?
Very, very slow, very low, very muted. Not a good time to get into the industry unless you're extremely well financed because it's all based on the economy. The real estate market is so bruised and battered right now, or the real estate industry, the entire industry, from Fannie Mae, without a secondary market, the only people that will be able to buy homes will be those with 20% plus down, or people with VA benefits, and that's a shrinking number. Or people, if FHA survives, they could do FHA, but they're tightening the requirements for FHA. That'll soon have a higher down payment. So with less volume, there's less room for new agents, and experienced agents will survive if they know how to generate business. And more offices are closing, so they won't get the walk-ins or the neighborhood business. I just don't see a positive future for real estate except for experienced agents who understand the internet and understand that about 85% or whatever the number is this week of people go to the internet for real estate services. Be there. Be there strong.
I'm going to adopt your third-person thing and see if I can pull it off. So Tim and Julie, Lenn, get criticized a lot because for being doomers and gloomers about the real estate industry.
It's a realist. I'm a realist.
Exactly. And
if you know the market's going to be bad, or if you believe it is, you can prepare for it.
Well, it's not, but essentially there is no bad and good if as long as you have the right skills. I mean, I don't want to sound like, I'm on a rant here, but what Lenn is saying is if you learn how to, for example, in your marketplace, you need to know, going back to really maybe one of the best points on this call, know your market. If you know your market has zillions of people upside down, Julie and I live in Vegas. I mean, seriously,
equity... Be a short sale listing agent.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, an equity owner, when realtors see an equity owner, it's like, really? Where? Really? Can we get a picture with him? He's like a celebrity.
Even the equity owners are tough today because they blame the buyer for the fact that they're only netting $300,000 out of their house instead of the $500,000 that they expected 3 years ago.
There's so much more skill set, so much of a higher level of expertise. Guys, you heard it when we were talking with Lenn today. She 100%, without saying it, comes from a place of wanting to make a contribution, wanting to help others. You can just tell it in the words that she uses. And if you truly have that mindset, which, by the way, if you don't, you frankly just won't make it in this industry. You're going to have to learn you're going to have to adapt, learn, master the skills that the marketplace in which you find yourself in demand, be it short sales or REOs. Now, in some parts of the country, I know Texas, for example, is doing quite well, thank you. So, guys, know your market, such a valid point. So, longer-term effects on this real estate crash in America. Do you think that people's mindset? I mean, you saw it after the 70s, right, when the interest rates were double-digit.
Yes.
So, would you expect for, say, somebody in his 30s that was wanting to make a career of real estate? What big changes do you think lay ahead? Going beyond.
Well, the listing field or the listing niche is not going to be as attractive as it once was. Buyers are golden today.
Tell me about that. Why?
Well, because listings are hard. They're short sales, only about what, 20% of them ever close.
Lynn, that's a myth. That's a myth.
Well, in my market, that's all that closes. They're all published as pending, but how many of them actually close? Around here, every other house that's not a foreclosure or a new home is a short sale.
Well, so let's use that. If you're in your marketplace and you know that a lot of agents who are listing houses as short sales can't get them closed, you could start, reaching out to help those folks that have expiring short sales, and that's a great opportunity for you to help others and make money. So again, getting back to the opportunity thing. But so like into the future, virtual offices like what you've done, brick and mortar, where do you see the traditional brokerage model fitting in?
They're closing and consolidating all over this area. Major mega brokers are consolidating and closing offices. In some cities and some states, they're going out of business, but they're surviving here. They're just consolidating. The small brokerages, here's the great thing about a virtual brokerage like mine. I don't have brick and mortar. I don't have the overhead. It's the overhead that's killing them.
Oh yeah.
And if you have a virtual brokerage where everybody works from home, and I've worked from home since 1994, so you can sell real estate working from home. The home-based real estate agent is, I believe, the thing of the future because, for one thing, you keep more of your own money, and that's important. But it also gives you more capital with which to work. I mean, gas is expensive. The overhead, the costs of the MLS is more expensive than ever. The cost of the IDX is there. Just to be in business is expensive. E&O insurance is expensive. Everything that you want to do is expensive today. So get rid of that building. That brick and mortar is just it makes a large sucking sound when you get a commission check.
Well, you said something too. You said, like, for example, the walk-ins, because of the nature of how real estate's transacted nowadays. The whole benefit of having a brokerage in an ideal retail location was you could get the occasional walk-in. That's certainly been minimized.
Right.
Have you ever lost a potential relo buyer because you did not have a place on Main Street, as it were?
About 5 years ago, a lady wanted to come into the office and sit down and talk, and that's all she would do. And so, yes, I absolutely lost her. Granted, I didn't spend much time on the phone with her because once I heard that and I explained how we work, she said, "No, I want to talk to somebody. I want to sit down and talk to somebody." I just got rid of it because I did. That's the only one I can ever remember. Even when I worked in an office, they rarely came to the office.
Well, that is true, right? I mean, a lot of people have it in their minds that you need an office. Guys, those are the mooring lines that hold you to the past that make you broke.
It's a security blanket.
What do you mean by that? That's interesting.
They have a place that they can call their brokerage, their office. They don't realize that their office is in their head. It's in their computer, more likely.
That's right.
It's wherever the MLS is and wherever their website is. That's where their office is, wherever their email is, and their own personal phone call. That's where it is because the overhead for that is insignificant compared to the 50% that the average broker takes. Even if you're in a 100% office, you're looking at $750 to $1,500 a month. If you don't sell anything, it's all going out and nothing's coming in.
Oh, so since you broached the subject, this wasn't on my list of questions, but let's ask this one. Where do you see the big brokerages as far as a place in the industry going forward?
Consolidating.
Right.
Consolidating dramatically. Even the big ones are closing offices. I have a friend that just relocated from Atlanta to Northern Virginia, and his RE/MAX office in Atlanta closed. So, and if RE/MAXes are closing, things are tough.
Yeah, that's true. So, Lynn, the last question I have for you, and this is a question I ask occasionally, and I'd love to hear how you answer it. Hopefully, you answer it. What drives you? Why are you so successful for as long as you have been in this market? If you don't mind, do you have any secrets, anything that you know that if you had the ability to speak directly to hundreds of agents, which you are right now, anything you'd like to let them know to inspire them, something that really
Get up in the morning and go to work, even if it's only 15 feet from your bedroom. Get up in the morning and go to work. Don't wait for work to come to you. Organize yourself. Have a business plan. Have a list of things you need to do that day and do as many of them as you can. Don't procrastinate. Get it done. And every time you get a task done, especially if it's a task you didn't want to do, you're going to feel so good.
I could tell you're a big fan of lists, right?
Not necessarily lists, just a routine. You have a routine of things that you know you need to do and do them. Just know what your business is and work. Just go to work every day. Most people who don't have an office, that's the biggest mistake that people make when they have a home office, is they don't realize that they need to go to work. Wherever their computer is, that's where your job is. Get there.
Lynn, how do you keep yourself in that zone? I mean, considering that you basically are, you get up in the morning, you go to your computer, you do what you're going to do every single day. Do you have any people that you communicate?
Well, for one thing, it's a pleasure not to have to get in a car and commute to a job.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I'm in gridlock country here. And when I was in government service, I commuted every day. It was horrible. I didn't know any better, but once I started working from home, I knew the difference. I mean, it's a pleasure to be able to get up, get a cup of coffee, come and sit at my computer and start answering email. It's exciting. So you never know what you're going to find.
So what drives you now, Lynn?
Money. What else?
That's the truth, though, isn't it?
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, so you have to have enough money at this point. Money, that's the answer?
I have a family that, I've got kids, grandkids in college. I paid for so many college educations you wouldn't believe it. I mean, I have expenses too, and I have expensive tastes. I drove yesterday. Day before yesterday was a prime example. I was driving to the hotel on the other side of D.C. to meet with Bob Stewart and the Active Rain guys to come into the conference yesterday morning. And on the way to the Beltway, I passed Gucci, and my car just automatically pulled in. And I have a new blue Gucci purse.
Julie, I heard you. Do you have any questions for Lynn?
Sometimes it just happens. I don't know.
I mean, when I shop for shoes, I shop at Nordstrom's.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not. You at least you have the independence. If you have the money, you have the independence.
Well,
but I work because I love what I do. I love what I do.
It's freedom, though, isn't it, ultimately? I mean,
absolutely.
You have the freedom to make decisions who you're going to work with, really basically how you're going to work, when you're going to work. You have the freedom to basically be able to contribute to your friends and family and your grandchildren and whoever else.
Here's a very important thing. We don't work for pennies. We work for the big bucks. And that's the beauty of the contingent fee. I hear people talking about fee-for-service companies. Nonsense. Don't get me near them. I have no interest in fee-for-service companies. I want the contingent fee because I have confidence that when I or one of the agents that I work with is working with a buyer, we are going to sell them. We know what we're doing. We are going to help that buyer. We are going to sell them a home. We are going to collect a nice commission check because we put our service on the line with every single client. If you don't close, you don't get paid. So you work harder. You don't just work. You work hard and you work smart to get to the settlement table. And
it is a different kind of work. You're absolutely right.
Yes, it is.
It requires a different level of intensity, and you either adopt it fast, especially in this marketplace, or frankly, you just won't make it.
And I have told all the agents, save your money and stay out of the mall.
Yeah, absolutely. Except if it's a Gucci now. So John from Northern Virginia, he has a question for you. John, I want you to just go to homefinders.com and give Lynn a call. That's the best way to get that question answered for the sake of time. Julie, were there any other questions that we will feel guilty if we end this thing without asking Lynn?
I think we're in good shape. She's made a lot of great points here. I detect absolutely no mindset issues with Lynn.
Or ego.
Or ego. I love what you said. Get up in the morning and get to work. You can really summarize a lot with that statement.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
And that is something that a lot of people, the bubble has given agents a sense of entitlement. I'm entitled to be successful. I'm entitled to be the number one agent. I'm entitled to that walk-in or that listing or whatever else.
No, you're entitled to Social Security checks if you paid in enough years.
Well, no, hold on. I might not be entitled to it. You might be entitled to it. Yeah, depending on where you are in that cycle. Yeah.
That's right.
But honestly, in real estate, in this economy, it suffers no fools. You're entitled to nothing. You have to go out there and earn it. And you have to, bottom line is you're going to have to take the time to learn. And if you're coming out of the bubble and you're a bubble agent, if you've gotten your license within the last 5 years or so, and you're waiting for the clouds to clear and the birds to come back out and start raining easy transactions on you again, it's not going to happen, guys. That market was abnormal. Now we're coming back into normal. So just accept it and listen to what Lynn had to say. She's got a long history of being successful consistently, and it all starts with that magic word, making an effort work, and having the mindset of being of service. So, Lynn, I'll let you in the call. Remember, we're talking to, how many agents is it, Julie? 400? No, that was on the web. How many do we have? It was 687?
600 plus.
Yeah,
yep.
Okay. So speaking with the agents that we're speaking with now, is there anything you'd like to end the call with, Lynn?
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh.
They hear from me every day.
Thank you.
They hear
Thank
from
you
us.
very much for tuning in. This was fun. And if anybody ever wants to chat about real estate, just give me a call.
And if you're interested in possibly joining Lynn's network of brokers, go to homefinders.com. If you have a referral, an inbound buyer referral, you could pretty much be guaranteed that they'll take great care of it. Again, homefinders.com. Lynn, do you want to give your phone number out now, just for those that are
800-711-7988.
Perfect. So, Lynn, listen, thank you on behalf of Julie, myself, all of our faculty and staff of Harris Real Estate University for being today's superstar interview. I had a lot of fun, hopefully not too much fun. I absolutely adored speaking with you because I love everything, frankly, that you stand for. You're not standing idle. You're not being complacent. You're always looking for new, better ways to build your business. And the point you made about taking action was so valid. I just wish you could somehow encapsulate that into an easy-to-swallow pill so we can disseminate that to the industry, because that is the bottom line. Take action now. So, Lynn, on behalf of Julie, myself, and all the faculty and staff of Harris Real Estate University, thank you sincerely for being this week's superstar. And for all of you who are listening in, if you'd like to listen to a replay of this call or send this call to some of your other agents that need a little pick-me-up, if this doesn't cure your mindset issues, nothing will. You can, of course, go to timandjulieharris.com and click on Superstar Interviews, or you can just go to superstarinterviews.com and listen to the past Superstar replays. So, Lynn, have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for everyone for joining us.